I know the results aren't what you wanted to get, but the journey made you a better coach. Like you being on this call with me is making you a better coach.
Totally.
And if that's the end goal, is not the number after your name, but it's for you to be the best coach that you have the capability to be. You're on that journey. You're moving forward.
Welcome to Behind the Knowledge, a Best Hour podcast where we dive deep into the lives and stories of inspiring coaches from all walks of life. The two hosts of this show are me, Pat Barber, and my good friend and fellow coach, Todd Occhiuto. Each week, we'll sit down with the most amazing coaches we can find, uncovering their unique paths, the challenges they've faced, and passions that continue to drive them. Whether you're a seasoned coach, an aspiring one, or simply somebody who likes listening to stories of how people achieve the success that they have, this podcast is for you. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be inspired by the powerful stories and insights from the world of coaching. This is Behind the Knowledge. Let's jump in.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back at Behind the Knowledge with my man, Pat Barber, as always. And this time, we've got Coaches Development Specialist Kristin Bowen, along with CrossFit Level 4 trainer.
Coach.
She is a CrossFit Seminar staff flowmaster and mentor. She is a former regional athlete. She is how many times? 8 times CrossFit
Regional?
Games judge?
Oh, no, probably like 9 or 10
9
maybe?
or 10
10
times?
Mm-hmm.
This won't be coming out the day that I'm referring to, but yesterday she was on the CrossFit Training Instagram page. I mean, she's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, well, I mean, a
I'm
job
making moves.
that I didn't know that she had is you actually get given people who fail the level 4 as a potential mentor to mentor them for the level 4. Is that it?
Correct.
That's a job I didn't know you had. That's a very unique job.
I'm not currently doing it, but I did it for a while.
That's awesome. Okay. So the first question we want to start off with is just like, what was your coaching journey? What was your very first coaching experience? Like when you started this, like what was the first thing you ever coached? And when was that?
2010, I took my level 1.
Okay.
And then I got back from the level 1 and just started coaching classes.
No way.
Yeah.
Like next
right away.
day?
Yeah.
And that was the first thing you'd ever coached was CrossFit?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. And I didn't have any desire or plan to be a coach. But the owner of the gym, Sarah Wilkinson, needed help. And she asked if I wanted to take the level 1.
Did the standard like, oh, you're going to do the course this weekend? Sweet, so you can coach on
No,
Monday?
she actually suggested it. I had no intention.
Right,
Yeah.
so she suggested it and then
took
was
the
like,
course.
took the course, cool, so I've got you on the schedule for Monday morning.
Yes.
Was that
because
it?
we found out if we passed the test on site.
Oh, yeah.
So I was heading home knowing that I had passed the test. I was good to go.
That's wild.
And I started coaching.
So tell us
6
what that
a.m.
process
class.
was. It really Monday 6 a.m.?
I don't remember. I honestly don't remember if it was the next day, but it was probably that week. Yeah, and I started doing maybe like 1 6 a.m. class a week, and then a couple afternoons.
And what was that process like? Was it just like, hey, thank you, good luck, I'm going to go home during this time, or did you get some guidance, or did you get any?
It was trial by fire then.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it really was. It was just kind of start coaching, and I just kind of learned as I went. I remember saying to one person kind of towards the beginning, I'm pretty comfortable with the deadlift, but I have a lot of problems with the clean and the snatch. And then the other coach being like, yeah, because those are a lot harder to coach. There's a lot more going on. I just, you don't know what you don't know.
For sure.
I had no idea. I was just.
So what was your background previous? Because so you did you have an exercise science background? Or
No.
Like what were your jobs previous leading up to this?
Graphic designer, ad agencies, freelance design.
Nothing in public speaking, nothing
No.
in like...
In fact, I took one public speaking class in college because I had to. But otherwise, this is kind of the whole thing with me. Like if you would have asked me 15 years ago if I'd be in front of people speaking, I'd be like, absolutely not.
Right.
Absolutely not.
But you're here.
Yeah.
So that's definitely different than like almost everyone we've talked to some degree. Like they had some inclination of like, I kind of like this, but like, so you start coaching, and what was your thought process around that? I'm just gonna do this right now. Like this is a thing.
Yeah, it was actually a pretty organic process for me because I started coaching a couple classes a week, still working full time. I'm trying to think of where I was working at that time. Probably an ad agency still, just doing graphic design. And then I started coaching a little more, and then I pulled off my full time and did like a part-time in-house designer, and then started doing freelance work. And then I started coaching a little more, and then I got the seminar staff journey started. And
how long ago was that? What was that time period? So you start coaching, and then you
started coaching in 2010, and then got on seminar staff 2013. Yeah.
So what does that look like? You said trial by fire. You get thrown in. You start coaching classes, right? We see a lot of coaches that start coaching classes, and all they do is what they've been doing, and there's not a lot of growth and development a lot of times because there's not a lot of guidance there, right? And so there's got to be a lot of self-discovery and decision on your own for you to try to develop yourself. And so what did that look like? How did you get better? Like, how do you go from being thrown into coaching classes with no onboarding program to like, hey, I'm trying out for seminar staff?
Yeah. So, like I said, Sarah was my original coach and owner. She came from kind of old school, right? Like CrossFit Coronado, Pat Sherwood. Joe Alexander was a coach at our gym as well.
Coach at your gym that you're at? Okay.
Yep. And his wife, Dom. And yeah, so there was just a lot of, they were running things the way they learned from the people in California and San Diego and everything. And so it just, and again, that's all I knew. So so there wasn't a lot of like official former development, but there was just a lot of observation, and it's like, I don't know anything else, so I'm just going to do it like they're doing.
Right.
You know?
So you got lucky.
Yeah.
You got lucky that you had examples that were like.
Yeah. I got lucky that I was able to apply my natural talents.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, I just meant by that.
Graphic design. Yeah. She was able, that's her natural talent.
I mean.
Well, I started out being able to do a really pretty whiteboard brief.
Yeah, whiteboard brief just crushed it.
Yeah.
But we talk about this a lot. It's like, so many of us that got here from those early days were fortunate enough to have an example of what it looked like to be a good coach.
Yeah.
And, having that example, whether you had development or not, your development was like, well, evidently that's what coaching looks like, and so that's what I need to do. And if
I
they
literally
know points
knew
of
nothing
performance,
else. Yeah.
they teach using
progressions.
progressions. They see incorrect. They actually spend time coaching. Like I feel like that. It's still to this day, some of the best development can come from that.
It is. Yeah.
If you get fortunate enough to have the examples and people to follow.
Yeah.
That was when I was trying to build coaching development programs for NorCal years ago. It was like that was one of the hardest things was like I was trying to create all these systems and these courses and these like, weekend calls and all this other stuff. And like what I needed to do to make a gym successful was take one of our really good coaches and put him in the gym that had no good coaches. And then all the other coaches would be better.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, they need an example. And like that's what we do whenever we go to a gym is like we coach like this, and if you don't coach like this, it looks really weird because that's outshining you. But yeah, like that's cool that you had that. And but it doesn't just take that. Like you then have to apply the skills. What was that process like for you? Because when did you start becoming intentional with it?
I think right away, just because, you know what the interesting thing is, I'm kind of thinking this through as you're asking me. I had no idea what I was doing. It wasn't something I planned on doing. I don't have an exercise science background, like you said. I didn't really know too much. And I think that helped me in a way, right? Because I'm like, well, I have no idea. So I want to feel like I can be confident in front of these people. I remember the only question I really had at my level 1 is how do I get all of these people that have been doing CrossFit longer than me? We have a pretty big military community there. How do I get them to listen to me? And so that was my biggest concern, really. Yeah. And so I knew that I needed to do a good job and get up there and kind of know what I was talking about and have confidence in a plan in order for me to feel okay about telling them how to do things. So I came into it just so unsure of myself, and that has probably stuck with me this entire time. And I think back, I'm like, this is maybe why I've gotten to where I've gotten in this coaching journey, is because every time there's a new step, I'm like, I can't do that. Well, I better figure it out and do as good of a job as I can, just so at least I don't feel even more insecure, or I feel at least like I've got something to kind of sink my feet into when I get up in front of everyone, and I don't feel like a idiot that doesn't know what I'm doing. You know?
Yeah. That's an interesting place to have. A similar conversation would be like, I don't know any different, I don't know what I'm doing, and that's okay with me. So I'm going to keep having an open mind and just do what works. That's one side of it. But yours was like, I don't want to not know what I'm doing, so I'm going to research everything to the best of my ability. But simultaneously, that would keep you with an open mind, because you would be like, I haven't figured it out.
Oh, always.
And I think that's where we halt our development, as we go, I figured it out.
Yeah.
And like, we're no longer curious. So
constantly. The other day on the call after, I'm like, you guys don't use bands? I'm like, should I not be using bands?
No, they were all wrong,
Yeah,
Kristin.
no.
You were right.
But no, I mean, I'm constantly looking around to the people around me being like, just trying to absorb the things that are being said, and just to always question the way that I'm doing it, and make sure, like, okay, am I still staying the course? Am I still following the processes the way that I believe in, or the methodology? And so someone comes up and is like, no, we do it this way. I'm like, oh, okay, let me hear. And then it's almost like you have to convince me. Then I'm like, oh no, I don't think that's
You're
the
an
best
idiot.
way. Yeah, I'm going to keep on doing this, but I'm always open to hearing, because I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know?
What's cool about that is it's one thing to start that way. It's another thing to stay that way as you achieve what you've achieved, right? It's like, all right, cool, I get it. You start coaching, you've got all of these really high level coaches around you. You don't want to be the worst one. Sweet, I'm going to get better. I've got all of these guys that are in the military, and I've got to prove myself so they'll follow me. Sweet. Then I get on seminar staff, then it might be easy to be like, okay, no, I've proved my worth, I've made it. You don't stop there. Same thing happens as Flow Master, passing the level 4, like that, being able to take that mindset and continue it on is really, really cool. And I think it's having that kind of humility is neat to see, and obviously something that allows you to continue to grow and develop after. From the outside, you could look at it and be like, she's done everything you can do in this space. Like, she's probably got it. She probably knows it all, right? And clearly you're telling us that's not the case. So really, really cool.
Yeah.
How do you not get wrapped up in, because just beyond what you're stating of like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm willing to try, is like, I don't want to, why would anyone listen to me? I'm going to curl up in a ball and never improve. Like, do you have that, do you carry it as an insecurity, or do you carry it as like a humility thing?
Yes.
Which one?
Yes.
Both?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how do you avoid digging too deep into the insecurity side? Because that could be crippling.
Yeah, the honest answer is a lot of work. Like, I've done a lot of work on that.
What does that look like?
Like therapy.
Okay.
Introspection. I've listened to a lot of podcasts, and I've got a lot of books in my house where it's just like, okay, I've figured out what are the things, where are my weaknesses in what you're saying, right? Like, where is it that I don't feel like I deserve, or don't feel like I belong, or the insecurity is now starting to hurt me? And how can I take that? And there are a lot of like fake it till you make it happened. And then it was almost like, instead of me being like, I can do that, I'm going to do it. I'm like, well, I don't know if I can do that. So I'm going to try really hard. And then I have to prove it to myself. Okay, cool. I did it.
Yeah.
And then I have to sometimes I'll think back and be like, oh, but did I do it? And it's like, yeah, you did it. Yeah. So there's a lot of that, like, just self-talk, right? And so, I mean, I think I've gotten myself to the point now where I'm like, okay, I've gotten more comfortable with where I am, but I think it also affords me a pretty high level of empathy for, trainers that are still working their way up, and people that are a little bit insecure about their role. And it's like, I get it. We've all
been there. Whether you want to admit it or not.
Yeah.
You were there at some point.
And I'm perfectly okay admitting. I remember the very first Flowmaster meeting I went to, and like, I had to introduce myself, and these are all my peers. Like, I know all of you guys. And I was so nervous. And I was like, my voice was shaking, and that made me embarrassed. And I talked to my therapist about it after, because I was so just like in my head about what was up with that. And we were able to pinpoint it because I didn't feel like I belonged in that room, And so there's a lot of that, like, if I can get to where I really truly feel like I deserve and feel like I belong, then that just gives me that confidence. And so I've just worked on that a lot.
And have you gotten there? Have you gotten to that point?
In some areas. It's a journey, right?
Right, yeah, of course.
Yeah, or it's like with anything, oh, I got my first kipping pull-up. Well, what do you want next? You want 2 in a row.
Yeah.
It's like, cool, I got there. I'm a flow master. Okay, do you want to be a mentor? I'm like, now I've got to give other flow masters. Do you want to be on the, there's always something.
Do you really want me to answer that question?
Yeah.
Well, so when do you dismiss? So like you wouldn't then sit in a current flow master meeting and be like, do I belong here?
No.
So something has changed from when you sat in that first one to now.
Yeah.
And is it time spent in the position, or is there like a thing that validates you externally or internally like that you see?
I think it's time spent in the position. I think there's some external validation in just talking with other people that have the same position, and I can hear kind of, chat about like, oh, this is what I did. And it's like, oh, that's what I would do too. Or just getting feedback from the
I was going to say,
trainers.
there's got to be enough feedback and performance evaluations at the end of the year where when everybody's
like, okay, I'm doing something right.
Hey, Kristin, you're really, really good at this, and everything continues to point that direction. You're like, yeah, I guess maybe they're right. Right. That's got to help at least to some degree.
Yeah.
I mean, by that metric, you could say any social media presence who, like, because they implode on a single negative comment. It's like, and they'll get 200,000 positive ones.
Yeah, but the environment that we're in this,
I know,
with seminar staff, right,
but
external of feedback throughout the entire process, right? Yeah. Throughout the process. I think that buys the credibility of the feedback you get at the end of the year when you've been on staff for 12 years and you've gotten the good and the bad for 12 years. And now
have you ever had bad feedback?
Never. I'm sorry.
No. I'm actually genuinely curious on an end of the year evaluation. Have you ever gotten feedback that was just out of left field devastating?
No. Have you?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Years.
Okay,
Years.
so I could argue, am I not pushing enough? Am I not riding that line enough?
No.
Am I playing it safe?
Because you were not only checking the boxes. So I don't think in this position it would be one where like pushing the boundaries of capacity would cause negative feedback.
Right.
I think you're not checking the boxes in the way that it needs to be checked for the people in the hierarchy to thumbs up it.
We talked about this with you too a lot in the sense that there's things that you are really, really good at that are part of the role on seminar staff, then there's other parts that you're not as good at.
For sure.
Right? And so I'm sure any of the negative stuff that you've gotten at the end of the year probably falls more so into that side than this side, where you're fortunate enough that you're good at both of those, like both sides of the coin, right?
Well, but it's interesting because I never lacked confidence. Even when I'd get those, I'd be like, ow, that's devastating. I'm going to go crush this next seminar. Here we go. Like, I'm like,
close the laptop and move on with your life.
For sure. I'm like, I mean, truly deeply devastating, and I'd had to work on it. And like, there's years of working on it, but I never clung on to it. I never was like, I don't belong here. Like,
right. You didn't let it define you.
Not at all.
Yeah. And I think that would be a natural inclination for me. Like, I would see that and be like, oh, this is who I am.
Right,
or
that's it. Maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was. Right.
I do think at this point, I'm past that though.
You're past that, yeah.
And I don't know why I said I think. I know at this point I'm past that. Yeah.
What would there be something that could derail you? Like
with specifically Flowmaster role?
No.
Or
if
in general where I am in my coaching
in your
career.
If I is there a scenario, because like you're now on this staff where we're like mentoring many others, like I would say that the team that we have here is like really good at what we do. Like, is there a scenario you could see where you'd be like, oh, I don't know, like
do I belong here?
Yeah,
I'm sure.
You sure you belong here?
No, well, yes, I do feel. I feel this is a.
Pat, we already asked her. She's gonna film some classes for the knowledge. We've not seen them.
We haven't seen it yet. So yeah.
Is she any good or not? When that comes back and we're like,
Well, there's only one out of the
the
three of us passed the actual level 4.
I actually passed.
So
I passed 3 iterations of the level 4.
Okay. Well, 2 of the 3.
I disagree. Actually,
I passed 4 iterations because I patched the old level 2 and the 3 trials.
Okay. No, I'm sure. I do feel this is a good fit. Like, I do like being a part of the team, whether we're talking about best hour, coaches development, or the knowledge. Like, I do. I think it's cool. And I think being able to hear all the other coaches and where they are in their journey and just being able to relate so much.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my gosh, yeah, I was there.
So great.
Here's what I did. It was 10 years ago, so maybe I wouldn't do that this time, but here's what I learned, and here's what I would recommend. And
what's so cool about what we get to do now is like we reference the resources that you had by the examples that were set out in front of you, and other gyms and other coaches didn't always have that example. And it's like, well, how do you expect them to continue to grow and develop when their example of coaching isn't to the standard and the level that we want?
Yeah.
Well, now we can provide that to people that want to be better and don't have those natural or examples at their gym. They don't have those high-level coaches. Well, now they have access to it.
You don't know what you don't know.
Right.
Yeah. And to your point, when you're talking about all the coaches' development, and it's like, oh, all we have to do is just drop a really good coach in. It's what a great way to be able to do that now.
Yeah.
And then all the other stuff becomes like supplementary, right? It's like we just need to have a really good example of where the bar can be, like what is possible.
Totally.
And then all the other stuff just helps support the journey to get there. But without the big example, it's kind of arbitrary, right? Like it becomes hard to connect. How it's almost like the level 2 coaching drills, right? Like these coaching drills are cool, but how am I going to actually do this in a real class? Well, we're going to end the weekend with a real class so you can see how we take everything that you've done and we can realistically implement it. So,
I still think that that's such a missed opportunity for CrossFit headquarters. Like, say we just every day for .com, it's being run at a gym, and you mic up one of our level 4 coaches, and they just teach a class. And then that class...
How perfect would that be with CAP or a program, or the program, right?
Well, yeah.
It's like,
but it's posted live online. Like, not live. It's posted online after the fact. It's done in post-production. And every day there's a video that someone at home could log in and watch and be like, this is the expectation of a class.
Yeah.
I can do it in 2D kind of like this. And then all the coaches who see it are like, that's what I have to live up to. So it's just every day there's this example of like this. So I'm like, come on, that'd be so sick.
What else would be cool about that too is that then the coaches can also see that not every class has to be perfect
100%
in order for it to be a really well-run class.
Totally.
Because you're talking about that, and I'm thinking, just kind of joking myself in my head, I'm like, I would turn the comments off, though, because I wouldn't want to see all the comments that people have.
But it'd be great.
But then it's like, but no, that's kind of the point, is that it's
not perfect.
Like, it's not ever going to be perfect.
Totally.
To be a quality, well-run class.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that would be such a wonderful, like, open, transparent thing. To like, it's not like a mystical, they become this thing. It's like, no.
And,
it's like,
there's never another fault. There's never been a fault. I know every scaling option. And like everybody hits the stimulus. It's like no. How many times you finish a class now and you're like, that was a bogey. That was a bogey. My bad. Sorry, guys. Sorry. I promise if you come back tomorrow, it'll be a little better.
Hey, on average, though, we're having a great time. You know?
Except for you, Steve. Sorry, Steve.
We'll take you to the hospital later.
It becomes that class where it's like, okay, did anyone get hurt? Did everyone have fun? All right, guys, see you tomorrow.
We're good.
Check.
We were just kind of talking about this in the context of, there was one of our members here, he came up to me, he's like, look, I had a really devastating experience with the level 4. Like, I went and took the level 4, and I didn't pass, and it rocked my world. Like in the way of like, I have not been motivated. I've not been, and I don't think we get confronted that often with such a harsh test. That's a very measurable metric of like, hey, you need to hit this standard, and we're going to hold the standard way up here. And we were just talking with Lindsay, like how meaningful that is. Like when you pass that, there's like true validation and like, whoa,
100%.
You've done a really good job, because like there's an external source, and this is very few people pass it, and that's the point of that
test.
It
has to be hard for it to mean something.
For it to mean anything, yes.
Yeah.
But we've almost set people up for failure because we haven't shown them what a good coach is. And so it's like, he's like, I don't know. I've never seen a level 4 coach. So he's like, I've owned affiliate for 10 years. I've coached
a lot, and I'm great.
I've coached hours. My clients love me. I've
probably
got a great
the best
community.
coach in their gym by a long shot.
100%. And he's a wonderful dude. And I was like, can I see what your evaluation was? And it bang on spoke exactly to that. It was like, it was just, and you could see it. You could see like, presence and attitude was nailed. Like the
empathy and respect.
Empathy and respect was all there. It was all like green checks, good checks. It was like seeing and correcting.
Static dynamics, seeing and correcting.
Yep. And then
threshold training sometimes is what people struggle with.
Threshold training, yep. And then it was like setting up a good progression and making sure you taught everything.
Yeah.
And it was like literally just bang on where if you're just in a flow and you've got the same people and you've never seen it done differently.
You kind of assume, like, you're like, hey, guys, you've been here for a while. You know what a wall ball is.
Totally.
Let's do that,
Never coached at another gym. Like, of course you're not going to be level 4 ability at that. We're judging you off the people who get a new group of people every weekend for the last 7 years.
And just so comfortable establishing control of the group and
know
rapport
exactly what to look for,
with
and
people you don't
so
know.
many new people that you know what fault is going to show up. Like I can watch you walk into my gym, and
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
I can already cue your squat. Well, I haven't even squatted yet. Yeah, I know, I got you though. Here's what I need you to do, right?
Yeah.
Just because we've had the luxury of 12 years of
Right.
50 new faces every weekend, right?
So true.
So he hit like that, hit hard, and it was like, yo, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. But now he's at the place where he's like, I want to tackle this again, but I need to know what to do. So that's where he was mentioning that you had done some of that mentorship stuff. I was like, oh, that'd be really cool. And then in addition to that, like the coach's eye and like getting examples out there. So that spurred us to want to film more of these to get like, hey, this is what a class looks like.
I just think that is something that the community, and look at the feedback from the little bit of that we have in the knowledge, right?
Yeah.
And putting more and more of that out and more examples
Just
of
examples.
that. Like, this is class. This is what it looks like. And then even the evaluation or the option of like, you posted some of my classes and be like, all right, guys, what do you do well? What do you do different? Like, what could he have done better?
Well,
and
I think
huge.
the opportunity for them to watch and then ask questions, clarifying questions, or get our opinions about something, or, well, what if you did this? And it's like, yeah, you could have done that. That's cool. I just decided to do it this way.
Yeah,
Let's talk through it.
by the way, it sucked. I should have done it the other way, right? And that's okay too.
So much value there.
Yeah.
I love how many different ways there are of doing things. Like and like how there really isn't any hard and fast rules. People will say that there's hard and fast rules. Even things that are like, never carry a PVC pipe around while you're coaching. I'm like, the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if you're leaning on it like Gandalf's staff and
or you're
like
hitting people with it, like knees out, chin up.
But that can be endearing too. Like,
kind of.
if you do it right, it can work. Like, there's a great cue with the like, hey, picture this is a pool cue, and I'm gonna to send your hips back. All right, from the front, pull, and then they're like, whoa, and then they go hips back.
I've never heard that cue.
That seems a little long right there.
No.
Execution of that.
Say, hey, hips back, and whoop, and then they're like, whoa, and they flinch.
You've got to be very accurate with that.
Well, it's the same one as like the right audience. You're like, hey, little nut tap, and they're like, whoa, and you're like, okay, that's the initiation.
That's
of the squat.
my go-to cue at the level 1.
Is it? That's good. Do you do it forehand or backhand?
Oh, you're supposed to do it backhand?
It's forehand, and you have to make contact.
I do it double hand.
Double forward hand.
Double scoop. Yeah.
Oh, the people who are listening are going to be like, what the hell?
What are they talking about? They are on the edge of ruining this thing.
But yeah, back to the really quick point about that level 4 mentor. That was such a huge part of it, was just talking to them and letting them kind of feel heard and be like, look, I get it. Like, you went into this is like how passionate all of these coaches are, especially those that have gotten to the point where they're ready to take the level 4.
Totally.
Like how passionate and just all in to developing their craft and wanting to spend the money on the evaluation and the travel in order to receive this high credential.
Yeah.
And then to get evaluation back and basically be told like, nope, XXXXX. It's devastating.
Totally.
Yeah.
But it's necessary. It's what makes this meaningful, and it's like.
And that was a big part. It's like, look, I know the results aren't what you wanted to get, but the journey made you a better coach. Like, you being on this call with me is making you a better coach.
Totally.
And if that's the end goal, is not the number after your name, but it's for you to be the best coach that you have the capability to be. You're on that journey. You're moving forward.
Yeah.
But it's I can all the things you said, I 100% agree with.
And think about how many people that we know that are on staff that went through that same process.
And that was a huge.
Think about where you're at there, right? Because you're coaching at the highest level. You're a world-class coach. You're the world's best, and then you get a reality check of like, man, there's still an opportunity to grow, right? And really, really cool to see the number of people that have retaken that and sought after it and earned it and achieved it.
Yeah,
and
and put the
kind of
work
stuff,
in.
Right? Put the work in. Right?
Found out where their weak spots were, did some dedicated work on those, and then went back and crushed it.
Luckily, there are more areas than just taking the level 4 that you can do that in
Yes.
these days.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, services you offer, the knowledge. Like, there's more spaces. Like previously, like that's why the old level 2 was so brutal. It was like
there was nothing else.
You just showed up,
Yeah.
and they just destroyed you. There was no context
no,
for it. There was no,
like action plan.
I mean, that's why us passing that then is
so much more
significantly
important than
better than
the current level 4.
not the but level the current one, just better than what you did.
Yeah.
You know.
That's absolutely.
I hear you. I hear you.
So
they had gotten rid of that by the time I got into the coaching game.
In your,
they knew you couldn't handle it, so they did it just for you.
In your history, if I made you choose the best coach you've ever had, who would that be and why? And you can be cheap about it and say this person for this reason and this person for this reason if you want to do 2 of them.
And it doesn't have to be in the world of CrossFit.
No, it can be just
geez.
best coach
well,
you've ever
now we're
had.
going to tell you the worst coach I've ever had.
Who's the worst
I
coach?
won't, though.
Well, tell us the characteristics. What'd they do?
Really, really good at the sport, like very high level at the sport,
Right.
but no people skills. No, I mean, like what we say, right? Presence and attitude. Just not a good coach.
I think that's the case
Not a good
with a
coach.
lot of really high-level athletes in sports where it's like the sport came really natural to them, and it's kind of like, here's my coach, and just do what I do. You're like, yeah, if anybody else in the world could do it that way, then we would, but we can't. And
I have
that's
another
why.
example. I have another example.
Here we go. What do you got?
The coach, I had a coach that if you were the best, then you got coached. And if you were middle of the line, which I was, then you could feel, and I was in high school, you know,
makes sense.
you could feel that you weren't worth their time.
That's really
you know?
good.
And so that's another thing I think that I wouldn't have even thought of that if you hadn't have asked me that question. But like, I bet that subconsciously in some way kind of contributed to my coaching journey where I'll seek the people out that look.
Wait, no, you'll seek the people out who need coaching? Weird.
That's weird.
I mean, I just do that naturally, you know?
Well, no, but what's so funny is like that's how does that manifest in our current gyms? Those are the gyms that prioritize competitors. Like it's the same thing where you're you're taking the most capable people in the facility and being like, I'm going to put my focus on you.
And they're not even really coaching them because they move generally well. So it's just like, go faster. Use this heavier wall ball.
Do heavier. Well, but I also think, especially in our gyms, is we can overcorrect the other way, where now it's like, hey, the only people that are going to get my attention and my time are the beginner athletes, or the people that are struggling the most. And then because you are capable and I know that you can do it RX, I'm just not going to pay attention to you.
Yeah, you're fine. You'll be fine.
You'll be fine. You're not going to die. And it's like, yeah, I get that, but a really effective coach should be able to spread the love to everybody, right? And everybody gets what they need. And you're able to save and give the focus to that person that's brand new, that is completely lost, but then also give Pat the cues that he needs to be a little bit better on that day.
Yeah, and we see that is a huge thing that coaches struggle with, right? Like we just did that, right? Spreading attention out to all levels of coaches of athletes.
The way you do that is just by caring about the actual people.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, if you just care about them as people, then you can very easily hit everyone. But if you're being like, I'm looking for all the faults, like, it's like, of course the big ones are going to jump out at you. And so, like, if you start with the layer of, like, I care about all these people as people, and then I'm going to layer in all the other stuff, it's so much easier to hit everyone.
Right, because I'm going to go check in with everyone because I care about them.
Exactly.
And I see them in the corner back there.
And you're like, this guy needs a rounded back fix, and this guy needs a faster turnover on the snatch.
Right.
You know, like, and there's such a different level. But if you're just looking at it as like, okay, I have this order of operations with regards to problems. I'm looking for big problems and then little problems, and we're only going to go in this way, then you find yourself stuck on these big problems because they're with the new people. But yeah, people first.
Who's the best coach you guys have
You never
ever
said the
had?
best coach.
Yeah.
You said the worst. Tell us the best.
Say best.
I don't know that.
Look at her trying to flip the script over.
That was
like,
brutal.
who's the best coach you
Questions
had?
pull, huh?
Do you both have a coach that stands out?
I do.
Is it Coach?
No,
Greg?
not at all.
No?
I love Greg. Greg is a fantastic thinker. I did not find him to be a particularly adept coach. He was the one who said you can't teach the kipping pull-up. He's like, you can't teach. Some people just have it, other people don't. You're like, no, Greg. There's plenty of ways to teach the kipping pull up. It's just like, Greg.
I think you can't teach the kipping pull up.
And Greg again, wonderful thinker, like just a beautiful, crazy mind and a speaker and everything. But like, if it was his coaching, it was brutal. Like it was like, do it. Well, I can't do it. Try harder. It's like, okay, like if
but that was it at the time, right? Well,
sure.
That was the example, and then when we all started this stuff, it's like that was it
for sure. For sure.
To start the coaching journey and to see how much it's evolved and how much more information there is.
Yeah.
And the fortune that we have because of that, like just what people have taken from what he's given us, and they've started to evolve it and been like, all right, I'm a gymnast. There is a way to teach the kipping pull up. Let me give you guys a progression that you can use. And Olympic weightlifters and all the rest of that stuff is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you don't have one you can think of.
I honestly can't think of one. I've had
Think
so
of one.
many.
Think of one great one. What great one comes? What's a great coach that comes to mind when I say that?
Joe Alexander.
And what made him great?
Because I was fortunate enough to have him as an actual coach, like running classes, and then that transferred into him helping develop me as a coach. So, I just think about all the I'm constantly referencing little nuggets that I've learned from him.
Right.
But most of them have to do with me developing as a coach or a leader. But yeah, I'm just thinking of my whole athletic journey. My coaches were fine. They weren't probably because I wasn't the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But
have you seen both of us coach? Or just him?
I don't think I've seen you coach, Pat.
Don't know that I've seen you coach.
I could be the worst ever based off of it.
I don't know that I've seen
when
you
was the
coach
last time?
except for some of the videos.
We've worked level 2s together where I've coached a class probably.
I don't think so.
I'm sure.
I don't think so.
Well.
So here we are. We're just all sitting in this vacuum talking about what great coaches we are, when meanwhile we have no...
Whoa. We didn't talk about what great coaches we are. We were talking about great coaches each other were.
Yeah.
One is self-flagellating.
Yeah.
And the other one's a little bit edgier.
I got some video evidence out there.
Yes, you do. You do.
A little bit.
We'll have some from all of us soon enough.
Yeah.
Are you a CrossFit coach who's feeling stuck in their development? You're not alone. Many coaches lack good guidance when it comes to how to develop as a coach. They either don't have strong examples they find themselves around, they may lack support from their gym owner, and they just feel unprepared going into their next credential. That's why we made the Knowledge Pro, to fill that gap. It's a mentorship program built for coaches like you. It uses the Knowledge Daily, our comprehensive video library, as well as extra content that we put directly into the Knowledge Pro on our live weekly calls twice a week to mentor you and get you to the next level of development. We've got progressions, we've got scales, we've got one-off tips and tricks, we've got full coached classes by level 4 coaches so you can see an example of what it means to do this job well. All of that will also be walked through each week on those live calls, so that you have a soundboard to bounce off of and a group of coaches looking to be better to help support you in your endeavors. Coaching isn't just knowing what to do, it's also knowing how to do it. And that takes 2 things. 1, an example, and 2, practice. Practice is on your end, you gotta go out there and do it. We can help provide that example and the support with the Knowledge Pro. If you wanna know more, click the link below and give the Knowledge Pro a shot. I look forward to seeing you on one of the next calls.
Let's see. Oh, what's one coaching memory you have? Like if you go, if I would say what's one of your greatest coaching memories or funniest coaching memories or just something like a coaching memory that stands out in your head. What's an experience that you're like either that was awesome or that was terrible or that was
okay? I have a
hilarious.
random one. Maybe not the best one, but for whatever reason, it stands out in my head. I was coaching a workout at a level 2, and this is when I first started level 2, so it's kind of new to doing the group coaching in front of everybody. It was a big class. And I remember this guy was just not listening to me. And I could tell he was listening to all of the male trainers. And he just was not listening to me. And at one point, I actually think, if I'm remembering, I think Steve Haydock may have been the flow master.
Dude, that would not be the seminar that I would want to not pay attention to the female that was there.
Yeah. So we're in the middle of the workout, and this guy's just not listening to me. And finally, I just got in front of him, and I literally stood on his barbell, and I would not let him pick it up. And I was just like, look at me, and gave him his coaching thing and stood on the barbell until he stopped for a second and was like paid attention to what I was saying. And then, I think it was Steve, the flow master, referenced it in the debrief, and then I got feedback like that was awesome. Like
that's impressive. I've seen that happen to trainers at level 2s,
where they're
females before, and they just kind of like, and I lose my mind watching it from the outside.
And I think,
but females like, it's happened before. Whatever.
It
I'm not going to like
all of the time. And so I think that's why that stands out to me, because that was such a turning point for me, where I was just like, it was out of character, and I don't know what I may have just gotten off there were a bunch in Europe I worked for a while, and they don't listen to anything. Like, I really specifically remember at one point I told one of the guys some feedback, and he pushed back and he didn't agree, and I was just like, okay, whatever. Same thing where you're just like, whatever. And then another male trainer came up, and I heard him, because it was during the workout, tell him the exact same thing. And he was like, oh, thanks, man. That was really great. I was like, are you kidding me right now?
Dude,
I just told you that.
Those are like the people in our sex that just give us the bad name.
Yeah.
Dude, you're always like, no way. There's
So-
no way.
There's
that
no
really
way
happens.
people are that
It never
dense.
really
Yeah.
happens, and then you see it, and you're like, God damn
There
it,
is,
we are
I mean,
idiots.
yeah, and I hate to be like, oh, it's female, male thing, but there
straight up is.
there
Oh, it
has
is.
been,
Yeah.
there's been a deficit we have to kind of crawl out of, and we just have to present ourselves a little bit differently sometimes and work a little bit differently in order to get that same level of respect that you think they just give you regardless.
Which blows my mind in that experience of a seminar where it's like, if you've done anything to earn the respect, it's earn your stripes and get the T-shirt, right?
Yeah.
And be at the seminar teaching
Yeah.
that thing. So for somebody to still not listen to that,
Yeah.
it just melts my brain.
But even still, I mean, this happened maybe 6 months ago. I taught a class at my gym, and it was a time that I normally don't teach at. And there was a young guy there, military guy, and he came in, and I'm teaching the air squat during general warm-up, and we had never met before, and he had his feet, like, you know what you said, where you're like, you can tell what people's
Squat's gonna look
cues
like
they
when
need.
they
And
walk
so,
in.
you know, a lot of times it's like, oh, is their squat too wide? Is it too narrow? Well, we'll know once they squat, and then we can, I could just tell, like, he's way too narrow. So I'm like, hey, you know, whatever your name is, widen up your stance a little bit. And he was like, this is how I squat. And I was like, well, like, why don't we just try to widen it up? So I was like, all right, let him squat a few times. Sure enough, I'm like, not hitting depth, chest isn't up.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, all right, let's just try just a little bit. And he goes under his breath. He's like, okay, because I haven't been squatting this way for 27 years.
Oh, you got to figure it out then.
I am done with you. You're dead to
You
me.
did 27 years of
I know,
squatting that poorly?
the whole thing.
Still
I know.
haven't hit steps,
And I
so
was like,
evidently you haven't
okay.
squatted yet.
And then a couple people in the class that know me kind of looked at me to see what my reaction would be. I'm like, I'm not even gonna.
Well, the thing about it is, it has nothing to do with you.
No,
Like, and
no.
the hard part is to disassociate with the fact that, like, that guy's in my mind, that guy's a piece of shit. But, like, he's dealing with shit. Like, he's
Self, right.
like, to me, a human being who would do that is broken. Like, there's something
Right.
broken.
At
And
least,
like,
at least for that day or that
for
time.
that
And
moment.
it might be a moment thing, right?
Yeah.
And I think to your point, when you started, I remember this for myself, when I started and I was insecure and I was working to earn the credibility of being the guy, like, I had to overplay my hand. And so when they would do that, that was them like, they don't believe me. They don't think I know my
Yes.
stuff. And like, I would get so defensive and it'd get me so fired up. And like, the more confidence you have in yourself, the more you realize you're like,
That has nothing to do with me.
bro.
Yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
like, dude, let me give you a hug real quick before
Right.
you
Yeah.
leave, because whatever you're dealing with, man,
Yeah.
I know you're carrying a heavier load.
It is.
Like, it's
And
a
so
burden,
what
right?
the outcome ends up being, right? Like, that particular scenario happens, and I'm sure that happens to coaches all of the time.
Oh, yeah.
We get this question at the level 2 all of the time. What do you do with your clients, your athletes, your members who aren't coachable? They don't want cues. I mean, don't you guys get those questions?
yeah,
They
yeah.
don't want to
All
be
the time.
coached. They don't want to be fixed. So that would be an example there, right? And so I always, you've got that fork in the road. Like, I can either choose to do what you said, like, I would have done that a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
I lack the confidence, so I need to feel I have to prove to this guy that I
That
know what
I'm
I'm
in
talking about.
yeah.
So whatever that means, and now what's happening with the whole rest of the group
Right.
that want to be coached, that want to be there. And so then the other route that I can choose is like, okay, cool. Like, you do you. You're safe. You're fine. I'm going to keep on chipping away at you throughout the whole class, but I'm not going to do it to the detriment of the rest of the class, because I know that the cue that I'm giving you is the cue that you need.
Right.
And maybe we have a conversation
I just
later.
got to figure out a different way to deliver it, right?
Yeah.
And maybe get to know and understand your why and dig in a little bit deeper so you'll take it,
Right.
onboard it, right?
It's
but then
no longer me questioning, like, is this squat stance fine? Do I not know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, maybe
Should I even be a coach?
Yeah. But the other side of that, too, is the people, like, what wouldn't shock me is the dude that you had to stand on the barbell is also the guy that going, how do you deal with these people? Because at my gym, nobody listens and nobody will scale. And you're like, you see that happen in class. And I'm like, you want to know the answer to that question? It's because that's the example that you set, right?
Yeah.
So as long
Once
as
again,
you're
example.
Examples.
Once again.
Well, I just want to be clear that I don't think that those people should get to continue to do that in your spaces. I think that if you let that continue, if it's not directly met head on, it festers.
Yeah.
And then there's more of them, because like, regardless of the fact that it's them going through something, that's unacceptable in this social setting, and it's bad for the rest of your space. So like, whatever owner at your gym is there, like, should be like, hey, we're gonna have a talk with this fella afterwards, just to be like, hey, look, that's 100% unacceptable.
Yeah,
like,
that's not how we roll here.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Like, and because you can let that go because like you're the bigger person, you've done these things, but it's like, he might run into somebody who that will break them, you know, like, so I think when we become more,
or somebody will follow him, right? Then another person's like,
Right.
I want to squat like this, and he doesn't have to move his feet.
right.
Right. So as long as it's not a one-off conversation, like a one-off scenario where somebody's having a bad day and they say that, and you know that because you know who they are. But yeah, if that's somebody that's continually trying to do that, it's like, you're not doing that shit at my gym.
Yeah. And I like, it makes me like it. I hate it so much. Like, to even hear you say that, to even have the like, okay, whatever, I'm not going to deal with this right now.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Dude, I'm telling you.
I want to drop in.
I know.
I want to drop in. I want to stand
Yeah.
right next to him. I want to. My favorite, because I mean, I'm a man, and that has happened to me by other men.
You
like,
are a man.
And what's funny is like it barely like a small boy, but what's funny is like I would get similar things, but I would get that when I like dropped in other places, or when I would coach at other facilities, like I'd be traveling or something, because people, I'm not known in the community anymore, so people have no idea who I am. So I would get pushback because I'm relatively forceful with my being when I coach, and I always kind of enjoyed the experience because I'm like, I can.
You like to.
The back and forth.
You like the
yeah.
confrontation? That's
but now,
interesting.
but like, I want them to walk away from it being like, wow, I really shouldn't have done that.
He was right.
Yeah.
And guess what? Nobody does that.
No,
But you know what, though? It shouldn't be. And that's kind of the thing. A couple people came up to me after, and they're like, I wanted to be like, do you know who that is? And I'm like, I'm nobody.
I know.
That is not the point. Like,
Yeah,
I know.
you shouldn't have to be famous Games athlete Pat Barber to listen to you.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, but that's kind of what I was saying is I wouldn't then go, hey, do you know who I am?
Right.
It would be more like, oh, that's a really interesting clean method you have. If you try it like this, you know, and cold clean what they are like doing their 1 rep max
Yes,
with.
love
Like if you
it.
keep your arms a bit longer, it helps a lot more, you know, and then you put it back down and you're like, give it a shot on your next one. And then
You might want to take the 5s up, though.
exactly. They're like, oh, damn it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm the asshole. Like,
Yeah.
I hope, like, I don't know. I don't know if it ever works, but like, that's my dream, is like to just be like, these people just eventually go like, they reflect back on it. Like, I hope this dude like goes home and like 6 months from now he
He's
reflects
like,
on it.
I
He's
was
like,
kind of a dick.
oh, whoops.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that
Yeah.
again. Because like, if we let that stuff go, like, they carry that into the rest of their lives.
And I think that's the bigger picture, right, for the gyms and the affiliates.
Yeah.
If you create the culture where every time someone walks into a class, they expect to be coached no matter what their level is, that's contagious. You expect it. Then you have the random outlier come in. He or she pushes back. It's usually he, but
Unless you're a regional athlete.
Yeah,
Kristin
yeah.
Bowen,
And like,
who's
yeah.
an L4, then she does what she wants. When she's
team
in your
regional
gym.
teams. But I probably shouldn't say that. I should just let it ride. Regional, multiple year, 4-time regional.
Those are my favorite Instagram handles.
What, 4-time regional athlete?
4 times games athlete, and I'm like,
11.
Are you sure? Like, and it's like, oh, you were on a qualifying team that you were an alternate for.
Yeah,
Sick.
don't bust on the teams. But yeah, it was significantly back in regional. It was so easy to make it on teams. But I was also a little fitter. Anyway, what was
the culture? You were saying the culture.
Yeah, you have the outliers, right, where they come in and maybe they're just not part of the culture. They're a newer member, they're drop-in or whatever. And then you have those people, and then they look around and they realize, like, oh, I'm the only one that everyone else is getting. And that's why it's so important, going back to the multiple levels of athletes. That's why it's so important to cue everybody. It's not just about, we want to coach everyone, absolutely, but it's a bigger picture here. We're also creating a culture where you're cueing every person, every athlete, no matter what their level, expects to get coached.
They get coached.
You're making them better, but it's also like, someone comes into my class and they know that I'm going to find something.
Yes. They're going to get it.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
So. And when coaches are in classes and they're getting coached, it creates this just like that's just part of the program. And then those people that join your gym or try it out for the first time and they don't fit that culture, they either fall in line or
they weed themselves out.
Yeah. Most of the time it works that way.
Yeah.
Intentional cultures are good.
Yeah.
When you just let them just happen. Like, it's a bit of a, whatever strong personality takes over, just runs it.
Right.
It's like,
it's riskier.
Way riskier. Let's just see what happens. Yeah. Like a wild ferment beer. We'll see what happens. This one went sour. It didn't go good. You guys not getting this reference, but
no, not a wild
Nate
ferment.
over there he's getting it.
I hate for it to be almost like a blanket, like, oh, we'll just sweep it under the culture, like just gym culture, but it really is.
It is.
It is pretty important. It does make a big difference.
It really is.
Yeah.
I would argue too, just lastly, that if you can get a person like that to be different, it transcends the gym. Mm-hmm. So if you can get them to recognize that they're a part of something bigger and to like not be a douche nozzle in situations like that, not in that way, like it definitely transcends the gym, and they're usually a better person in the rest of their lives.
Yeah, I would agree.
Exactly. It impacts them significantly more outside of the gym.
For sure.
Yeah.
Last question for you. If we were to say, like, you go back to the very beginning, like 2010, and you're gonna
of coaching, level 1,
and you're like, you're gonna offer Kristin some advice. What would you tell Kristin about her coaching journey? What would you offer as some, hey, just so you know?
I would tell that person. Now I feel like I'm in a therapy session.
Oh man, yeah, let's hear it.
Are we ready? I would tell that person that you are going to be good at this. Like, you have no idea how your life is going to change. Starting to do something that you're just doing because you're helping your friend out and you're getting your membership at the gym paid for, and you get to still go in and work out, and it's saving you some money. And something that you've never even considered doing, but it's going to be kind of your calling.
That's awesome.
And believe in yourself and know that this is something that you're good at. So I would just tell myself to just, like, can I say?
Yeah, you can.
Just fucking own it and lean into it.
Own it.
And I would have loved to just get there sooner.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this is my journey, you know?
Totally.
Again, I think, like, a lot of my challenges with some of the things I talked about earlier helped me get there. You know, it helped me, again, like, gave me empathy, and I think it helps me develop the other coaches because I have been in their shoes, you know. So yeah,
totally. Well, that's good.
I'm happy with where it's went. I'm happy to be sitting here with you guys.
I think you get to be happy.
Yeah.
You've done literally everything that is possible to do in this industry, so good job.
Well, I haven't coached a games athlete yet,
well,
but I have no desire to do that.
So let's run a little session here. You can
just
Pat to push his knees out. We're all set.
This is how I squat. I've been squatting this way for 27 years.
I like coaching other coaches that are just coaching regular members in their gym, and I really like coaching like master's age, like older
Rad.
people. That's it. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
That's a theme right now on the podcast. Pretty much everybody that we've interviewed have said
Likes
the
to
exact
teach.
same thing. They're like, I don't want any part of high level athletes.
No,
but
not at all.
Even really high level people.
Yeah.
Which is
Well, high level people. I like you guys are pretty high level.
High level athletes.
Yeah.
That's what
No,
I
that's
yeah.
that's just never been my jam.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
yeah.
Well, we're going to have a high-level coach on pretty soon. So he coaches some of the top – well, he's like a games athletes coach. So he coaches a bunch of the top games athletes right now. So we're going to bring him on and chat.
A high-level
He's a
games
coach.
athlete coach.
He's a coach who
for
coaches
games.
games athletes.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
So
we'll
it'd be
bring him
cool
on.
to hear the perspective.
Correct, because some people love that, and I'd love. We're kind of beating a dead horse of like we believe a similar thing, and we honestly, I would say we touch more people, like
The way we
coach because it's for the normal people,
Right.
But it's interesting to see the people who want to do the top 1%.
Sure,
and
it's
get
like
in their heads.
specializing
For sure.
in coaching.
Yeah.
And it's a specialty that, not everybody, it's not for everybody.
Totally.
Right? But if it's I could never do it.
Well, what's interesting, I just thought about this. Like, when you think about like coaches for other sports, very few people are like, I want to be a mid-level baseball coach. Mm-hmm. Right? They find themselves as a mid-level baseball coach, but they don't set out to be like a mid-level baseball coach.
Yeah, I would be curious to know how many people set out to be like I don't know of anybody that's like, I want to be a major league baseball coach. It's usually like I want to start coaching kids or I want to coach high school.
You think
and then
so?
maybe it leads to that's an assumption, I guess.
I'm curious.
Or is it
I don't know.
ex-major league players
Because
that
most
are
of them that are
baseball
in,
coaches?
nowadays, that's kind of what it's turning into, or people that have been part of organizations for years or in minor leagues and things like that. But yeah, it's an interesting, like the CrossFit coaching world is
a weird
different,
one.
It's
different
different.
coaching than
For sure.
other sports, for
Yeah.
sure.
I guess it's more like training versus.
Yeah.
Thank you,
So-
Kristen. Where do we
Thank you.
where can anyone find you if they wanted to be like, oh my gosh, I want to get a hold of her?
I'm in Vegas.
Not right now.
Doghouse
Yeah,
portraits?
check out my IG page at Doghouse Pet Portraits. It's my
that
pet
really
portrait.
it?
It's my
And-
pet
well,
portrait
and
page.
She's got a
That's
K-Bo.
legit.
Yeah,
What's her
I
coaching
do.
one?
And then it's Kbo 17. It's
And
my
if
coaching.
they want to work with you in person, there's an opportunity
Yeah,
for
I
that
do
too. What's that?
in-person coaching development. Just on my Instagram, you can contact me through there.
Nice.
Kbo 17,
Sweet.
and I'll do a portrait of your pet.
At the same time.
Or your
Fantastic.
favorite
Not at the
barbell.
same time.
Same
Not
time
at the
while
same
you're
time.
coaching development, you're taking a
Yeah.
portrait of the pet.
Yep.
Yeah, but the in-person coaching development, which is cool because there's a lot of online stuff, but not a lot of in-person stuff. So
Yep.
it's a little limited regionally, but
Hell yeah.
I'm available.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Behind the Knowledge. Now, if you want help developing your coaching and to learn from us directly, check out the Knowledge Pro. There we host live calls with our coaches every week where we discuss content together and work on skills to improve our on-the-floor coaching ability. To learn more, you can head over to besthouroftheday.com/the-knowledge. And if you found this content helpful, we're going to be releasing new episodes every week, so subscribe to the podcast and share it with a friend. Thanks again for listening, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.